Do you want to be strong not just at the gym, but in life? The kind of strength that stays calm in chaos, that doesn't break under pressure, that chooses action over excuses? That kind of strength isn't random, it's built. And it's built one simple habit at a time. In this video, I'm going to share 5 daily habits inspired by Stoic philosophy that can completely reshape how you face the world. These are not just ancient ideas, they're powerful, proven mental tools that high performers, thinkers, and leaders still use today to train their mindset like a muscle. Each habit you're about to learn is something you can start doing today. No fluff, no overcomplication. Just clear, practical habits that forge resilience, clarity, and discipline, even in a world that's constantly trying to distract and overwhelm you. And here's the key: the last habit we cover is the one that pulls everything together. Skip it and you'll miss the full transformation. Stick through and you'll have a system that not only builds strength, but keeps it. So if you're ready to stop reacting to life and start mastering it, let's jump into the first habit. This one starts before the world even wakes up. Habit number 1. Rise early with purpose. There's a silent moment each morning that most people miss. It's that thin sliver of time between waking and deciding. And in that moment, you're already faced with a question. Do I stay comfortable, or do I rise with purpose? Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, faced the same battle we all do. He famously wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." He wasn't talking about productivity for productivity's sake. He meant showing up with intention before the noise of the world begins. Rising early isn't about waking up at some magical hour like 4 a.m. It's about beating the part of you that clings to comfort. The Stoics understood that how you start your day is how you train your mind. If the first decision you make is to snooze your alarm, you're already choosing delay over discipline. But if the first thing you conquer is your resistance, then you've already started building strength before breakfast. And here's why this matters. The mind you wake up with is usually the mind you carry throughout the day. If you begin in a state of hesitation, scattered energy, or passivity, that tone follows you into your work, your decisions, and your interactions. But when you rise early with clarity and intention, you send a different signal to yourself. I lead this day. I don't just survive it. Let's get practical. What does rising with purpose actually look like? It doesn't mean checking your phone the second your eyes open. That's actually one of the fastest ways to lose the battle for your mind. Within seconds, you're absorbing someone else's priorities, stress, and agenda. Instead, when you wake up, start with stillness. Sit up, take a breath, and remind yourself of your purpose, your reason for getting up. That purpose could be working on your craft, training your body, building your business, or simply showing up as a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. From there, have a short, repeatable routine, something that grounds you. Maybe it's 5 minutes of journaling. Maybe it's a brisk walk outside. Maybe it's reviewing your goals or reading a passage from a Stoic text. What matters is that your morning isn't random. It's ritualized, it has structure, because structure builds discipline, and discipline builds strength. Let's look at a powerful real-world example. Jocko Willink. Jocko is a retired Navy SEAL, commander, author, and leadership consultant. He's known for his brutal discipline, and one of his most viral habits, posting a photo of his wristwatch every morning at 4:30 a.m., already up, already working. When asked why he does it, his answer is simple but profound. Discipline equals freedom. What he means is that the structure of an early morning gives him complete ownership over his time, energy, and priorities. When the world is still asleep, he's already in motion, reading, writing, training. No distractions, no excuses, just intention and momentum. Now, you might say, that's great for a Navy SEAL, but I'm not waking up at 4:30. And that's fine. This isn't about copying Jocko's schedule. It's about applying the Stoic principle behind it. Win the morning, and you gain a psychological edge over your day. Even waking just 30 minutes earlier than usual can change your entire trajectory. You gain quiet time, space to think clearly, to plan, to move your body, or simply to be present with yourself before the demands of the world kick in. And here's the truth. No one really likes getting out of a warm bed. That moment of resistance is universal. But it's not about liking it. It's about training your will to act despite that resistance. That's what builds mental strength. That's what separates a reactive life from a deliberate one. The Stoics would call this proheresis, your capacity for moral choice. Each time you get out of bed with purpose instead of comfort, you're strengthening that faculty. You're telling yourself, I act from reason, not impulse. I lead, I don't follow. And there's a hidden benefit to this habit that most people miss. Rising early with purpose doesn't just give you time, it gives you clarity. Without a rush of notifications, without noise or traffic or pressure, you can actually hear yourself think. You can examine your goals, your values, your intentions, and in that clarity, you often find answers to problems that seemed overwhelming the night before. Over time, this habit compounds. You begin to notice that your thoughts are calmer, your responses are more measured. You're not rushing through life, you're moving with conviction. That's what Stoicism is really about, not suppressing emotions or pretending to be tough, but cultivating the strength to choose wisely, especially when it's uncomfortable. So tomorrow morning, don't let your first decision be a surrender. Let it be a statement. Wake up, not just early, but awake to your purpose. Move your body. Set your intention. Read something meaningful. Build yourself before the world even has a chance to knock you off course. And remember, the strongest people you know weren't born that way. They trained. They showed up for themselves every day. And it all began with the discipline to get out of bed and live on purpose. Now that we've conquered the first moment of the day, let's move to the second habit, one that will make you nearly impossible to shake, even when life throws its worst. Habit number 2, mentally rehearse adversity. Most people walk into their day unprepared for the chaos that awaits them. One unexpected email ruins their mood. A minor delay turns into a meltdown. Why? Because they didn't train their minds to expect resistance. The Stoics understood something most of us forget. Adversity isn't rare, it's routine. Life doesn't unfold perfectly just because we hope it will. In fact, the more important your mission, the more likely it is that obstacles will show up. That's why the Stoics made it a daily habit to mentally prepare for hardship. They called this practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Seneca said, he robs present ills of their power, who has perceived their coming beforehand. The idea was simple but incredibly powerful. If you expect life to test you, you're less likely to be shocked or overwhelmed when it does. Think about how athletes train. They don't just run sprints or lift weights. They run drills where the weather turns bad, where the opponent surprises them, where something goes wrong. The goal isn't to obsess over worst-case scenarios. It's to build a mind that's already familiar with pressure. So when the pressure comes, you respond instead of panic. The Stoics used this same principle but applied it to everyday life. They didn't wait for things to go wrong before learning how to handle them. They played out the possibilities in advance. Not in a fearful negative way, but in a calm, strategic way. Marcus Aurelius would begin his morning reminding himself that he would likely face selfishness, rudeness, ingratitude, and setbacks, not because he was pessimistic, but because he wanted to remain steady when those things happened. If he already saw them coming, he wouldn't be offended, surprised, or thrown off course. He'd stay anchored. Modern science backs this up. Studies show that people who visualize potential problems and calmly rehearse their response are more resilient under stress. They don't crumble, they adjust. Take a moment to imagine how your own day could shift if you practice this. Before heading into your morning, you pause. You ask yourself, what's most likely to go wrong today? Maybe the project hits a delay. Maybe traffic makes you late. Maybe someone criticizes your idea. You don't obsess over it. You just accept the possibility and prepare a response. If it happens, you're not caught off guard. You're ready. Now, this habit might sound like it would make you anxious, but the truth is it does the opposite. Anxiety lives in the unknown. But when you've already mentally visited a difficult situation and calmly walked yourself through it, it no longer has the same hold over you. You're not fearing it, you've rehearsed it. Let's look at a real-world example. Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps is widely regarded as one of the greatest athletes of all time. But few people know that part of his training involved adversity rehearsal. His coach Bob Bowman would sometimes step on Phelps's goggles before a race. Why? To simulate the possibility of a malfunction, fogged lenses, water in the eyes, anything that might go wrong in competition. Phelps didn't just train for perfect conditions, he trained for chaos. In the 2008 Beijing Olympics, during the 200-meter butterfly final, his goggles actually did fill with water mid-race. But he didn't panic. He didn't lose control. He kept swimming, blind, counting his strokes, just like he had practiced 100 times before. He not only won the race, he set a world record. That's the power of rehearsing adversity. Most people think composure under pressure is a gift. It's not. It's a habit, a trained response. And Stoicism teaches you to build that training into your everyday life. So the next time you wake up and know there's a tough meeting ahead, don't just walk into it hoping for the best. Take a quiet moment to anticipate the challenges. Maybe the client will be difficult. Maybe your pitch won't go as planned. But instead of getting rattled by that thought, ask yourself, if it happens, how will I respond? What would a calm, wise version of me do? That simple visualization sharpens your mental reflexes. It gives you a plan, and the more you do it, the better you get. You'll start noticing that people around you lose their cool while you stay steady. You'll hear someone complain, and instead of joining them, you'll already be 2 steps ahead looking for solutions. This isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's about being composed and prepared. Life doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. Imagine walking into each day already having faced the worst in your mind, and already knowing that you can handle it. That's not fear. That's confidence. That's what Stoicism gives you when you practice this habit consistently. It's not about predicting the future. It's about strengthening your response to it. And over time, that ability becomes a superpower. People will wonder how you stay so calm in pressure. But you'll know. You've already been here before, in your mind. By rehearsing adversity each morning, you take back control. You don't wait to be tested, you prepare to pass the test in advance. You strip hardship of its sting and build the kind of strength that doesn't shout but quietly endures. Now that your mind is ready to face the unexpected, let's move on to the third habit. One that anchors your power in the only place where it truly exists, your own choices. Habit number 3. Focus only on what you can control. Imagine gripping a steering wheel that is not connected to the tires. You twist and turn with mounting frustration, yet the car drifts wherever the wind pushes it. That is what most of us do each day when we waste energy on events, opinions, or people that lie outside our personal reach. We strain, complain, and tighten our grip, but the road remains unmoved and our strength leaks away drop by drop. The Stoics drew a bright line to end that struggle. Epictetus, who spent part of his life enslaved and lame, summarized it in a single idea. Some things fall within our power and others do not. Our actions, judgments, and intentions are ours. The weather, the economy, other people's moods belong to fate. The moment you accept this split, you stop wrestling with ghosts and begin honing the one tool that is truly yours, your own choice. Epictetus lived the lesson under brutal conditions. A master once twisted his leg so violently that it broke. According to the ancient biographer, the philosopher merely observed, calmly, "That will snap," and when it did, he never sued for pity. His body was injured, but his resolve was intact. Instead of ruing the cruelty he could not change, he devoted himself to shaping the only realm still open to him, the realm of character. Centuries later, his discourses still guide people through crises far less severe than slavery and bodily harm. Modern science has caught up with the wisdom. Psychologists call it locus of control. People who believe outcomes hinge on their own behavior handle stress better, persevere longer, and recover faster after setbacks. They do not feel the universe owes them smooth sailing. They treat rough seas as a call to adjust their sails. The Stoics took that mindset from lab theory to daily practice. Consider Stephen Hawking. ALS robbed him of almost every physical faculty, yet he revolutionized our understanding of black holes and the beginning of the universe. He could not lift his head from the chair, let alone pen equations on a blackboard, but he poured every ounce of will into the tiny fraction still available, his brilliant mind and biting humor. When asked how he coped, Hawking replied that he had little time to waste on what his disease denied him. His focus was fixed on what remained, the freedom to think, to research, to teach. By mastering that small domain, he enlarged it far beyond what many able-bodied scientists achieve in a lifetime. Bring the idea closer to home. You are stuck in traffic and the minutes tick toward a meeting you cannot miss. Horns blare, frustration builds. The external scene is immovable. Yet 2 paths open within you. One is to fume, swear, blame the universe, and arrive frazzled. The other is to accept that the cars will crawl at their own pace and redirect attention to what is still yours. Breathe deeply, cue up an audiobook, rehearse your talking points, maybe call ahead with a concise update, same gridlock, different inner weather, or picture an office debate. A colleague dismisses your proposal with a smirk. You cannot rewrite her attitude, at least not instantly. You can, however, control your posture, tone, and the clarity of your facts. You can ask curious questions rather than lash out. By choosing deliberate response over reflexive outrage, you turn what seemed like a power struggle into a stage where your composure steals the spotlight. This habit is not passive resignation, it is strategic allocation of effort. Energy is finite. Every watt you pour into storms beyond your reach is a watt you cannot invest in skill, health, service, or creativity. The Stoic asks at each twist of events, where is my lever? If no lever exists, the emotion is released rather than rehearsed. If a lever exists, it is pulled with full conviction. One practical way to live the principle is to translate worries into actions. Suppose you fear an economic downturn. You cannot command global markets, yet you can build an emergency fund, sharpen your skills, and limit debt. Anxiety becomes agency. Or think of social media disputes. You cannot police the internet, but you can exit a toxic thread, post with integrity, and protect your peace. The circle of influence shrinks? Possibly. Your power inside that circle multiplies. As days pass with this mindset, an interesting shift occurs. People around you sense steadiness. They notice you rarely complain about weather or politics, yet you are first to volunteer solutions when a real lever appears. Trust accrues to you, opportunities gravitate toward you because decisive calm is magnetic in a culture of constant outrage. The discipline also rewires inner dialogue. When the voice of frustration pipes up, why is he treating me like that? Why did the flight get canceled? A second voice answers, because he chooses to, and because planes break sometimes. What can I still do that aligns with my values? Over time, the second voice gets stronger. The first fades, and emotional turbulence levels out like a once stormy sea settling after dawn. There will be moments when the boundary blurs. Loved ones fall ill, companies collapse, sudden tragedy strikes. Stoicism does not deny grief. It invites you to feel fully, then distinguish again. The diagnosis is beyond you, the care you give is not. The layoff decision stands. The preparation for your next chapter is yours. Even in sorrow, the habit tethers you to purpose rather than despair. Epictetus compared life to a ship's voyage. Some winds you command, others you cannot. The skilled sailor does not shout at the sky. He trims sails, sets rudder, and works with what blows. Cultivating that maritime poise in small daily annoyances prepares you for the squalls that truly test character. Tonight, before you sleep, scan the day. Recall a moment when you obsessed over what was clearly outside your hands. Notice how it drained you. Then recall a moment when you pivoted to what you could influence and felt momentum return. Let the contrast sink in. Tomorrow, aim to catch the divergence sooner. Catch it at the thought, redirect, and watch your strength consolidate like light through a magnifying glass. Focusing only on what you can control does not shrink your life. It concentrates it. It turns scattered flashes of effort into a steady beam that can cut through obstacles. Master this habit and you will walk through chaos with the calm certainty of a person whose steering wheel is firmly connected to the tires. With that clarity established, we turn next to habit number 4, which trains the body and mind to embrace discomfort so that nothing the world throws at you feels unfamiliar. Habit number 4, embrace voluntary discomfort. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, stay warm, stay full, stay safe, while quietly stealing the edge that makes you resilient. The Stoics saw this danger long before modern life wrapped us in climate-controlled rooms and endless convenience. Seneca, a man of vast wealth, routinely slept on a hard pallet and ate the simplest food. He did this not because he had to, but because he understood a hard truth. If pleasure becomes your daily baseline, even the slightest hardship feels unbearable. By choosing discomfort on his terms, he trained his mind to remain steady when fate delivered discomfort on its terms. Think about how muscles grow. You lift a weight that is heavy enough to cause microscopic damage. The body repairs itself, and the next time that weight feels lighter. The mind is no different. When you voluntarily endure mild hardship, you create tiny tears in your complacency. Those tears heal into mental fiber that makes real adversity feel lighter. Modern life offers countless ways to soften us, yet it also offers countless opportunities to practice this ancient discipline. You can choose a cold shower when hot water is available. You can walk a mile when the car keys are in your hand. You can skip a meal even though the fridge is full. Each deliberate choice is a reminder that comfort is a luxury, not a necessity, and that you remain in command of your appetites. Consider the story of David Goggins. As a young man, he was overweight, aimless, and convinced that life had dealt him an unfair hand. One evening, exhausted and demoralized after spraying cockroaches in a restaurant for minimum wage, he saw an advertisement for Navy SEAL training. The image of determined, battle-tested warriors ignited something in him. He realized that his soft, comfortable habits were the bars of his own cage. Goggins began forcing himself into voluntary hardship. He woke up at dawn to run even when his legs ached. He studied late into the night to pass the military entrance exam even when his eyes burned. Day after day, he did something that hurt, something his old self would have avoided. The transformation was brutal, but real. That overweight exterminator became a SEAL, an ultra-marathon champion, and a symbol of indomitable will. When reporters ask how he endures races that break other runners, he smiles and says, "I am at home in the suffering." He does not seek pain for spectacle. He seeks it because it is a forge that removes weakness and exposes true capacity. The key is intention. Stoics did not embrace discomfort to show off, but to rehearse life's unpredictability. When Marcus Aurelius marched with his legions, he slept under the same rough tents they did, ate the same rations, felt the same cold that crept into every soldier's bones. By sharing the hardship voluntarily, he strengthened both his character and the loyalty of his men. If an emperor could shoulder the elements without complaint, who dared to whine? Voluntary discomfort also resets gratitude. Sleep one night on the floor and your mattress feels luxurious the next evening. Fast for a single day and plain bread tastes like a feast. Gratitude born of contrast is far more potent than gratitude read from a motivational poster. It is tangible, visceral, and humbling. When you know you can thrive without the extras, you stop fearing their loss. That is real freedom, the kind Epictetus prized more than any physical possession. A common objection is that modern responsibilities leave no time for ascetic exercises, yet the practice does not require dramatic gestures. It can be woven into routines you already perform. Choose stairs instead of the elevator. Leave your phone at home during a walk and let the itch of boredom teach patience. Finish your shower with 30 seconds of cold water and focus on steady breathing while the chill bites. Small choices, large dividends. Your nervous system learns that discomfort is temporary and survivable. Your mind learns that you, not your impulses, are in charge. There is also a social dimension. When friends see you walk through rain without grumbling, refuse dessert without theatrics, or hold calm silence in an awkward pause, they sense strength. In a culture addicted to instant relief, the person who can sit with a little hunger, a little cold, or a little boredom radiates rare authority. This influence is not about dominance, but about example. It invites others to test their own limits and discover similar resilience. Scientific research supports what Stoics intuited. Exposure therapy shows that controlled doses of discomfort reduce anxiety. Cold water immersion boosts circulation and dopamine. Intermittent fasting improves metabolic flexibility. None of these findings surprise anyone who has slept beneath the stars or spent a winter morning chopping wood. The body and mind are anti-fragile. They grow tougher when challenged, softer when coddled. While embracing discomfort, guard against arrogance. The goal is not to brag about how little you need. The goal is to remember that you can flourish even when little is available. If you boast about your cold showers, you have already drifted into vanity, which is its own form of weakness. Real strength is quiet. It reveals itself when circumstances demand it, not when cameras do. Begin where you are. If the idea of skipping dinner feels impossible, start by drinking only water between meals. If running 5 miles terrifies you, jog until you're pleasantly out of breath, then walk back with pride. Progress, not punishment. The Stoics would nod at steady, humble improvement over theatrical extremes. Most importantly, pair physical hardship with mental reflection. Seneca would ask himself during his austere days, "Is this what I feared?" Often he discovered the hardship was milder than imagination had painted it. The realization shrank future fears to manageable size. You can perform the same audit. After your cold shower or brisk walk through winter air, Pause and notice that you are still alive, still functioning, perhaps even more alert than before. Let that evidence rewrite the story your mind tells about discomfort. Soon, a pattern emerges. A delayed flight is less irritating because you have practiced waiting. A critical email stings less because you have practiced sitting with unease. When bigger storms arrive, and they will, you are not caught unprepared. You stand in the wind and remember the mornings you chose the cold water, the miles, the silence. Your brain files these memories under one headline. I have done hard things on purpose, therefore I can do hard things that arrive uninvited. This is why voluntary discomfort is indispensable to strength. It is a rehearsal, a gratitude engine, a confidence builder, and a shield against fear all in one. Embrace it, and you cultivate a self that remains steady, whether fortune smiles or frowns. With discomfort now a trusted ally, we arrive at our final habit, the nightly ritual that binds every lesson of the day into lasting growth. Habit number 5. Reflect and journal each evening. At the end of every day, the world quiets down, but your mind often doesn't. Thoughts echo, regrets linger. Missed chances and restless plans begin to swirl in your head. Most people either run from these thoughts by numbing themselves with distraction, or they let them spiral unchecked into anxiety. The Stoics chose a third path, deliberate reflection. This final habit is the anchor of the day. It's where growth is captured, clarity is restored, and intention is reset. Seneca, one of the most disciplined minds in Stoic history, made evening reflection a sacred ritual. Before sleep, he would sit alone in silence and review the day from beginning to end. Not to judge himself harshly, and not to indulge in self-praise, but to learn. To hold up a mirror and ask the hardest, most useful questions. Where did I act with virtue? Where did I fall short? What must I change tomorrow? He treated each day as a lesson and each night as a review session. That was how he built strength, not by wishing to be better, but by facing himself honestly and making small corrections daily. This isn't just philosophical poetry, it's one of the most practical and transformative habits you can form. When you sit down, even for 5 minutes, and think through your actions, your decisions, your wins and your mistakes, you begin to understand yourself at a deeper level. Patterns emerge. Triggers become visible. You catch the moment when your patience broke, or when you hesitated to speak up. And in that recognition, you take the first step toward mastery. There is power in asking quietly, where did I waste time today? When did I speak too quickly or fail to act when I should have? What did I handle well? What did I avoid? What will I face better tomorrow? This simple act rewires your brain to become more aware, not just after the fact, but in the moment itself. You'll notice that the more you reflect in the evening, the more intentional you become during the day. You catch yourself before snapping, before procrastinating, before making the same poor choice again. Why? Because you know that tonight you'll be accountable to yourself. Not to a boss, not to a friend, but to the version of you who's paying attention. That's what Stoicism really demands, self-honesty. And this is where that honesty is sharpened, when no one is watching, when the lights are off, and when only the truth remains. The form of the reflection doesn't matter. Some Stoics wrote in journals, others spoke quietly to themselves, replaying their day like a film in their mind. You can write with a pen, type on your phone, or simply sit with your thoughts in silence. What matters is consistency. You do it every night, not just when things go wrong, but as a way to stay sharp, to keep the mind in check, and to live with greater clarity. This habit doesn't just improve discipline, it deepens your gratitude. You begin to notice small wins. The moment you held your tongue when someone tested your patience, the effort you made to help a colleague, the fact that you kept going even on a hard day. These aren't things the world may reward, but they are the things that build character. Noticing them strengthens your resolve. It reminds you that progress is happening, even when it's quiet. And yes, some nights you'll see failure. You'll realize you wasted hours, ignored your priorities, or gave in to anger. But the point isn't to shame yourself. The point is to learn. You ask, why did I fall short? And what will I do differently tomorrow? That's how improvement happens. Not with emotion, but with examination. Not with perfection, but with persistence. You're not trying to write a masterpiece, you're trying to get better, one day at a time, one night at a time. This is how you start stacking days of real growth, quietly, consistently, the way the Stoics did. And there's something else this ritual gives you: peace. You sleep better when the day has been examined, when nothing is left unresolved. It's like putting your armor back on the rack, sharpening your sword and setting your focus for the next day's battle. No overthinking, no guilt, just a calm reset. Even in the modern world, some of the most grounded and focused people in business, sports, and leadership do exactly this. Not because they call it Stoicism, but because they've discovered that without reflection, you lose the plot of your own story. You drift. You repeat mistakes. You forget what matters. But with reflection, you steer. You course correct. And you grow. That's why this habit is so powerful. It transforms your days into data, your failures into lessons, your small wins into fuel. And over time, your character is shaped, not by chance, but by choice. So tonight, when the noise dies down, take that moment. Don't scroll. Don't escape. Just sit. Breathe. Ask yourself what kind of person you were today. Ask yourself what kind of person you want to be tomorrow. And then commit, quietly, firmly, to move one step closer. Because in Stoicism, strength isn't just found in action. It's found in awareness, in reflection, in self-command. And when you build that habit into your nights, you don't just go to bed, you close the day with intention. And that's how strong people are made. Strength doesn't come from a single heroic act. It's not built in a moment of glory or a burst of motivation. It's earned quietly, patiently, in the small things you choose to do every single day. And now you have 5 of those choices, 5 habits that have stood the test of time. You rise early, not because it's easy, but because you refuse to let comfort dictate your life. You prepare for adversity, not to live in fear, but to meet chaos with calm. You focus only on what you can control, because your energy is sacred and your time is limited. You embrace discomfort, not to suffer, but to train your spirit for anything. And at the end of the day, you reflect, because a life unexamined is a life unlived. This is the Stoic path. Simple, yes, but never shallow. Each habit is a small act of defiance against weakness, noise, and distraction. Each one is a quiet commitment to becoming something more, someone unshakable. If you build these habits consistently, your strength won't just grow, it will compound. People around you will notice. Not because you talk about it, but because you live it. You'll become the calm in the storm, the person others rely on, the one who doesn't break when things go wrong, because you've trained not to. And remember, this journey isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. Every morning, every challenge, every night. Show up for yourself. One habit at a time. One day at a time. If this video gave you something to think about, if it stirred something in you, don't just move on. Support this work. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which habit you're starting with today. Your engagement helps bring more people into this mindset and spreads the wisdom further than I ever could alone. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay grounded, and until next time, this is Deep Dive Stoic.